Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Lifestyle School podcast. I am so happy to report that I am actually recording this solo. I am not wearing baby Josiah. I am sitting here in a room by myself. My husband miraculously got off of work early today, and so he took all the kids to soccer practice, and I am at home alone recording a podcast. This just feels like a Christmas miracle in March. So, anyway, welcome. So glad that you're here. If you're new here, welcome. So glad to have you. A little bit about this podcast. We are all about helping you build the kind of lifestyle that actually supports your health, supports your metabolism, your energy, and the life you want to live. And on this podcast, we talk about nutrition, we talk about fasting, we talk about mindset, hormones, and the deeper layers of behavior change that most health conversations skip over. Because the truth is, getting healthier isn't just about, knowing what to eat. It's about becoming the kind of person who can sustain healthy behaviors in real life. And that includes seasons of stress, kids, travel, holidays, bad nights of sleep, and everything else that comes along with being human. And so today we're going to talk about something that quietly sabotages more people than almost anything else. And that is the all or nothing mindset. I will say pretty much every person that I work with puts themselves in the category of an all or nothing person. There's very few people who I think truly live in the middle when it comes to their health journey. And I want you to know if you've ever felt like you're either doing everything perfectly or you've completely fallen off the wagon, then this episode is definitely for you because this mindset is one of the biggest reasons that people spend years and sometimes decades trying to improve their health, but never feeling like they truly get there. And the reason it's so destructive is because it feels like discipline. It feels like progress. But in reality, it's often a sign of something much deeper going on. And it's often a signal of a distrust with ourselves. I'm going to say that again because this is important. The all or nothing mindset is usually a sign of something deeper. And that is that it's usually a sign of distrust with ourselves. So today we're going to talk about why the all or nothing mindset develops, why it almost always leads to burnout, why extreme plans rarely lead to lasting change, and what it actually takes to build a healthy lifestyle that lasts. And as always, a quick reminder before we get into it, I'm not a medical doctor. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult with your qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet or lifestyle, if necessary, per your health conditions. Okay. And then again, before we jump back into it, I don't want you guys to forget that my online supplement store is officially open. And if you've been wanting high quality supplements that you can actually trust, this is where to get them. Every product in my store is third-party tested for quality and purity, which is not something that is guaranteed when you're buying supplements from a place like Amazon or even grabbing it at your local health food store, Whole Foods, or whatnot. Okay. These are the same professional grade supplements and products that I use and recommend to my clients. And it's an easy way to support me and the Lifestyle School podcast. So, if you are someone who spends money on supplements, having quality supplements is important to you, head over to my website, www.hopeplatcoaching.com. And in the top right corner, you'll see the link for the store. Click on that, browse, figure out what you want. If you do decide to create an account and order, you will need a code, and that is 104567. I'll try to remember to put that in the show notes. Again, it's 104567. And then you can place your order. And, if you don't know exactly where to start when it comes to supplements, if you have questions about that, go to episode 43 of the podcast where I talk about my core 4 supplement recommendations and why they matter for metabolic health. Okay. So with that, guys, thanks so much for being here. Let's jump into today's topic. So I want to start with a pattern that I think many people listening will recognize. Maybe you decide it's time to get serious about your health. You make a plan. It's always good to start with a plan, right? Because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You clean out the pantry. You get rid of all of those trigger foods, the foods that you crave. You buy healthy groceries, right? That go with your meal plan. You map out your workouts for the week. You even write them down. You write down the days that you're going to do your workout. You feel motivated. You feel disciplined because you planned, right? You feel focused. And you are ready to get after it. And that first week goes great. You kill it. You're following the plan. You're eating exactly what you said you would. You are doing amazing, right? You're hitting your workouts. You're feeling proud of yourself. And then something happens, right? Maybe it's a stressful week. Maybe you didn't sleep well. Maybe you have a newborn like me and they woke you up multiple times in the night and didn't want to go back to sleep. Maybe it's your birthday or your spouse's birthday or your mom's birthday and you show up and there's your favorite cake. Or maybe you skip a workout because frankly, the day just got away from you. You had a really busy day at work. You were there late and then you had activities and commitments and it was either that or getting to bed super late. Or maybe who knows what came up to push you off of your routine, but suddenly a thought creeps in. And that thought says, well, I already messed up. And in that moment, something flips. Okay. Instead of simply adjusting, the brain goes to the other extreme. Well, today is ruined anyway. I may as well just ... And suddenly, the whole plan is abandoned. And the person who was perfectly disciplined yesterday is now thinking, well, I'll just start again on Monday, which is, 4 days from now. And the cycle repeats. It repeats and it repeats. Extreme discipline, small slip, guilt, giving up, and then restarting over and over and over and over again, right? Sometimes for years, sometimes for decades. And many people assume the problem is a lack of discipline. But in reality, the problem is the structure of the mindset itself. And I will tell you, I literally just lived this like past week. So last week, if this is your first episode listening, again, welcome. I had a baby 7.5 weeks ago. Last week, I was like, okay, I went to my 6-week checkup. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling ready to just start, moving back towards myself. And that means paying attention, more attention to what I'm eating, moving. So I essentially did this. I planned, I shopped, I didn't purge my cupboard. But so last week I had a plan. I executed the plan. I was like, wow, I am killing it. And then this week happened. Sunday night ended up going on a date with my husband. Got to bed at 10 p.m. And if you know me, I have been trying to get to bed at like 8:39. So it was late. My baby is waking up in the middle of the night to eat. And also sometimes he's getting a little bit better, but wants to start his day at like 5:30 in the morning. And so I started my week tired, behind on sleep. And then, I was prepared for the week, but I found myself Monday afternoon raiding the snack cabinet that had a lot of really enticing snacks in it, actually, because someone had dropped them off for me who, didn't know that I'm trying to not eat those things. Super kind and thoughtful of them. I figured, we'll eat, my family will eat these at some point. Frankly, no, I ate them all in one sitting on a Monday afternoon. And I realized I was just really tired and I just had a moment of abandon essentially. And years ago this would have led to this cycle that I just walked you through of extreme discipline, small slip, feeling guilty, giving up and then repeating. But thankfully, I'm more than a decade in onto this and it's taken me some years to kind of realize what is happening. And once I kind of came to out of my psychosis of just eating all the snacks, I was like, what am I doing here? And like, why am I doing this? And I was like, this isn't in line with my goals. Huh, why did I do this? Oh, I'm really tired. And, I didn't go crazy the rest of the night. And then today we're just, starting afresh. And I mean, yesterday, right after I realized that, it was time to just start over. And the reason why I share this personal story that literally just happened to me yesterday, no, what day is it? It's Wednesday today, happened to me 2 days ago, is because I want you to know, like, this is something that's going to continuously come up no matter whether you're a health coach, you're a nutrition coach, you've been on this journey for, a couple days, a couple weeks, or decades, right? It's just this is real life. Um, and we have to then talk about the structure of this mindset of extreme discipline, small slip, guilt, giving up, and then restarting. Because if we never address it, we're never going to have success on this health journey long term. And that is my whole mission with doing this podcast. I want to see you live the healthiest lifestyle you possibly can for the rest of your life. I don't want it to be a 30-day challenge. I don't want it to be an 8-week challenge. I don't want it just to be like a 1-year thing. I want it to be something that you actually embody and becomes just a part of who you are, right? And so when people struggle with consistency, I think it's so easy for us to think that the answer is having more discipline. And honestly, this is what I thought for a really long time. We think we just need to try harder. We have to be stricter. We have to be more rigid. We have to have better self-control. But here's the problem. Okay. Systems built on extremes are fragile, and fragile systems break. They do. And if your health plan only works when life is perfectly calm, perfectly predictable, and perfectly controlled, or if when you're exerting extreme amounts of willpower, well, that isn't a lifestyle. I hate to break it to you. It's a temporary performance. And the moment real life enters the picture, think stress, think kids, travel, emotions, unexpected events, the system collapses. Not because you're weak, but because the system itself was never designed to survive in real life, right? Because it's fragile. And that's the trap of the all or nothing mindset. It convinces you that success requires perfection, but perfection is literally impossible. Okay? And let's be real, this mindset doesn't appear out of nowhere, but for many people, it's something that has been reinforced for years and years and years. A big contributor, I would say, is diet culture, or even, the nutrition bros or gals on the internet that are yelling at you, just count your calories harder. It's not working because you're not actually in a calorie deficit. And you're like, I'm counting everything that goes in my mouth and it's not working, right? But a big contributor to this is diet culture, because for decades we've been surrounded by messages that say things like, just start this 30-day challenge, follow this strict detox, cut out these foods completely, stay perfectly on plan. And, these approaches create a very black and white way of thinking. You're either doing it right or you're doing it wrong. You're either disciplined or you've failed. And there's no middle ground. Okay. There's no flexibility. Think fragile. And when people internalize that framework, they begin to see their own behavior through the same lens, right? So one off-plan meal becomes a total and complete failure. One missed workout becomes failure. One stressful week that leads to a non-perfect execution of the plan becomes failure, right? But that way of thinking isn't realistic. Like, we want to operate in the real world, in reality. And let's be frank, it isn't sustainable. Okay? Maybe it's sustainable for a week. Maybe every other week you can make it happen. But at some point, it's not going to be sustainable. because life likes to life. Okay. Underneath the all or nothing mindset, there's often something deeper happening. And this is a distrust with ourselves based on this all or nothing mindset. This is something that I've observed in clients over and over and over again. If someone doesn't trust themselves to make good choices in the moment, they often respond by creating very rigid rules for themselves. I'm going to say that again because this is really important. And I hope you hear this and it helps you look within and do some self reflection because this is really important. If someone doesn't trust themselves to make good choices in the moment, so whether that's around food, around their exercise choices, their lifestyle, they often respond by creating very rigid rules. And that's why sometimes, a couple weeks ago we talked about why doing something like a bodybuilding competition is not going to fix your issues with weight loss and lifestyle change because it's again, that's a pull, a reach for those rigid rules, right? Or maybe like, signing, I think the thing right now actually, that's not like a bodybuilding competition. So it's a little bit different, but like doing something like training for a high rocks, right? Something super intense. If you don't trust yourself to make good choices, often we reach for really strict and rigid rules, black and white. Very strict plans, very tight control. It becomes a kind of death grip approach to health, is how I would like to put it. You're just like hanging on, you're white knuckling it. I can't trust myself, so I need strict rules, is what you're internally saying to yourself. You're saying, I can't trust myself, so I need a perfect plan. Like, just give me a diet plan that tells me exactly what I can eat every day. I can't tell you how many times people have asked me for that. And I say, sorry, I'm not gonna do that because I think it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of your money. Because at the end of the day, how long are you going to follow up like a plan that I give you that gives you eat this exact food, right? On this day at this time. It doesn't work, right? It says I can't trust myself, so I need to eliminate all flexibility. And this is something that I struggle with is I do really great with black and white, right? But what that is a distrust in myself to be able to navigate the flexibility. But the irony is that the tighter someone grips control, or the tighter I try to grip control, the more fragile the system becomes. And um, because the fragile, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. So the tighter we grip control, more fragile the system becomes. And what that does is it leaves no room for being human. And like I say frequently on this podcast, we're not robots, right? We're human, we're complex beings. There's a lot going on. Life is hard, life is complicated, life is beautiful, but still complex and complicated, right? And, there's several reasons this approach almost always leads to burnout. First of all, it's not adaptable. Real life includes things like, illness, travel, stress, holidays, kids' schedules that maybe sometimes get out of control, and unexpected challenges. And a rigid system has no flexibility. And, when it breaks, people feel like they failed, right? You can't follow the plan perfectly. You feel like you failed. And secondly, perfection, the pressure of perfection is actually very exhausting emotionally, mentally. Constantly trying to execute a plan flawlessly requires enormous amounts of mental energy. And eventually, people just run out of that energy, right? You get burnt out. And when you do get burnt out, the pendulum usually swings in the other direction, right? Third, the strict rules disconnect people from their own bodies. And we talk about like you got to be connected to what your body's trying to tell you. Instead of learning to listen to signals like hunger, fullness, energy levels, and mood, we simply just like plow ahead and follow these external rules. And when the rules disappear, we don't know how to navigate food or lifestyle choices anymore. We just feel like we're kind of like out in the wild. Like, what do we do next? And I think for some people, that's a really scary thought. And so we have these rigid rules, but we can't follow them. So the system collapses. And, at some point, we have to ask, I think, a deeper question. Why do we struggle to do the things we know would make us healthier? I'm going to say that again because I think this is really important. Why do we struggle to do the things we know will make us healthier? We know what to do. Why aren't we doing it? Right? Because, I would venture to say, I think most people already know a lot about health. We know, that sleep matters. We know that real food matters, movement matters. We know that stress is really bad for our body. Knowledge isn't necessarily the problem. I think the deeper question is this: why do we sometimes resist doing the things we know that will help us? And the answer often lives in places like long held stress coping patterns, right? Emotional habits, emotional coping skills, our identity and our beliefs that surround that identity, maybe childhood messages about food, maybe patterns we've practiced for years. If someone eats when they're stressed, that pattern didn't appear overnight. If someone struggles to prioritize themselves, amidst other people needing them, that pattern has roots, typically. And real change happens when people begin to explore those roots and, where did these beliefs, where did these habits, where did these coping patterns actually come from? We got to start getting curious with ourselves because one of the most important shifts people can make when moving from asking I'm not articulating this very well. One of the most important shifts that people can make on this health journey is move from asking what plan should I follow, what influencer has or dietitian or doctor has the, perfect plan that I should follow to get me where I want to go, to asking who am I becoming, right? Who do I want to become? Who who am I becoming if I continue on this path? Because long-term behavior change is deeply connected to identity, and I've done many podcasts on that. And I think, part of the reason why, this is a lifestyle, like I call my podcast Lifestyle School, because after, I've been doing this for about a decade of nutrition coaching, and I've realized you can't just tell people what to eat or how to eat or when to eat. Um, you have to help people get to the root of why they're not doing what they know will make them healthy. And that really, like, if you're stripping back the layers of the onion of a person, it a lot of times comes down to identity, how they see themselves, how they perceive themselves, and these deeply rooted beliefs. And so I don't think long-term behavior change can happen without us reconnecting with our identity and then reshaping it to become the person we want to be. Because when someone begins to see themselves as a person who values their health, their behavior starts to align with that identity. Because there's so many automatic things that we do that we don't even really think about. And those things are always going to be in line with our underlying identity, whether we like it or not. And so we have to have congruency with who we see ourselves as and what we believe about ourselves, and our actions. And then it all has to be pointing in the direction that we actually want to go, right? We become someone who prioritizes sleep, someone who nourishes their body, someone who moves regularly, someone who respects their metabolism. What the identity work really does is it creates internal consistency. right? And that's really a big deal. And when identity shifts, behaviors stop feeling like a constant battle, right? You don't have to battle yourself to do these things that you know are in line with the goal that you're chasing, right? Because it becomes more automatic. And one of the most powerful goals in a health journey should be rebuilding trust with yourself. This is also, I think, a really big one because I think many of us are, especially on our health journey, when it comes to food choices, when it comes to our activity levels, we don't really trust ourselves that we can do this, if we're being honest. Instead of believing, you need strict rules to control yourself, you begin learning that you can make choices that support your health. Self-trust grows through small promises kept. I'm going to say that again because this is, again, super important. If you get, one thing from this podcast, this is really important. This could be it, right? Self-trust grows through small promises kept, through consistency, through learning from mistakes instead of punishing yourself from them. This is the opposite of the all or nothing mindset. It's a process of becoming someone who knows they can navigate life without abandoning their health, right? It's a process of becoming someone who knows, right? That you can navigate life without abandoning your health. That is a really big deal. Healthy people are not perfect people. I know the internet likes to make it look like, these fitness influencers that you follow, that they're perfect people. All their meals are like beautiful and perfectly put together. That's just not real life, right? Healthy people are not perfect people. They simply return to alignment faster, right? They understand something very important, and that is that one meal does not ruin progress. One missed workout does not undo months of effort. One stressful week does not erase years of habits. They've learned how to reset without shame. That's so big. You have to learn how to reset without shame. And that skill, the skill of resetting, is one of the most important skills that anyone can develop on their health journey. So, what does sustainability on your health journey actually look like? Well, real lifestyle change is not extreme, okay? It's not doing Whole30 for 30 days and going from eating a lot of prepackaged food to making everything from scratch, right? Real lifestyle change is not extreme. It includes flexibility. It includes reflection, self-awareness, adaptability. It means you can navigate things like holidays, vacations, stressful seasons, and emotional moments without abandoning your entire system because your system is flexible, it's not fragile. Because your health isn't built on a rigid plan, it's built on a way of living. And that's what I'm here to hopefully help teach you and coach you on, is how to build a way of living that is congruent with the person that you want to be, with the health that you want to have. And so, in closing, if you've been caught in an all or nothing cycle, or if you see yourself as an all or nothing person, I want you to know you're not broken, right? I think we think that if we have these flaws, we're broken. We're never going to be able to move out of it. And that is just not the truth. You've likely just been operating inside a framework that was never designed to last. But I want you to know that there is another way. You don't have to be an all or nothing person. I would actually encourage you to stop referring to yourself as an all or nothing person, because if you say that, you're going to believe it about yourself. You're going to say, I'm a recovering all or nothing person, right? Words matter. There is a different way to go about this. There's a slower way, a deeper way, a way that involves reflection, right? It involves patience and identity change. Does not require all or nothing. So here are a few questions to sit with after this episode. Grab your pen and paper, maybe hit pause, come back, write this down. I think these are some questions that can be really helpful if you are like, I'm ready to let this go. So here's some questions to sit with after this episode. If you think, if you are now now that you've decided you're going to be a recovering all or nothing person. Where does all or nothing thinking show up in my life? Just write that down, sit with that. Another one is, what rules am I gripping so tightly that they leave no room for being human? What does that look like? What rules am I gripping so tightly that they leave no room for being human? And lastly, what would it look like to build a lifestyle instead of a plan? Because there is a difference. What would it look like to build a lifestyle instead of a plan? Because let's be real, guys, your healthiest self will never be built through extremes. It's going to be built through awareness, consistency, and a willingness to grow. Okay, you got to have those three: awareness, you got to keep showing up. That consistency piece is key. And you have to be willing to grow and get out of your comfort zone. Well, guys, I hope you found this episode helpful. If you found it helpful, make sure to follow the podcast if you're not already. Click that subscribe, follow button, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Share it with someone who might need to hear this message too, your fellow recovering all or nothing person in your life. And also, I want to let you know, if you are looking for deeper support in building a sustainable lifestyle that supports your metabolism, your health, and your life, that is why I created Lifestyle School for Weight Loss. You can learn more about Lifestyle School for Weight Loss, which is an 8-week, I was going to say coaching program, but that's not what it is. It's like an educational course that you can go through at your own pace. And we go in depth on so many things. It's very comprehensive. I've gotten great feedback on the course, and also people have gotten amazing results. And then also, if you want even more support than just, learning about these components of creating a healthy lifestyle, you can also pair that with one-on-one coaching with me. I do have a few spots open right now, just coming out of maternity leave. So reach out if that is something that you're thinking about doing. If you're interested in that, you can check out the show notes for a link or head over to my website, www.hopepotcoaching.com. Reach out to me on social media. I would love to answer any of your questions. But with that, guys, thank you so much for being here. I love getting a chance to sit down and chat weekly, and we're going to see you on the next episode.